Minecraft Hardcore, the mode Mojang themselves describes as the mode where if you die in game, you die in real life. It's safe to say Minecraft Hardcore is not the easiest of game modes. It's a game mode that is exclusive to Minecraft Java Edition and does not give you the luxury of respawning when you die. This means whatever happens, if I die, the world is deleted and many hours of work is lost. But after much consideration, I have decided to start my own, very own Minecraft Hardcore world. Anyway, I hope you're excited for this journey. I certainly am. And let's just get into surviving Minecraft Hardcore for 100 days. So I began my journey by destroying some nearby oak trees to get myself some wood, to then be able to make myself some wooden tools. I made myself a wooden sword, a wooden axe. Of course, not the best tools, but they would do for now. I then used this sword to go kill some nearby animals such as cows and sheep. Of course, the sheep would give me food, but they also gave me wool so I could make myself a bed and have my first night in the world. Once I had killed some animals, I found a nearby cave where I made a pickaxe, then got some stone to make a stone pickaxe and collect some nearby iron ore. I then got a bit more cobble and made myself some stone tools, as I know the wooden ones probably wouldn't last. Once I had done this, I did a bit of exploring and found this really cool snowy mountain where I made myself a furnace and began cooking my iron. While the iron was cooking, I just sat and watched the sunset from the first night in my world. I then grabbed some coal, made myself a bed and had my first night in my 100 days hardcore world. The morning after, I went and grabbed my iron from that furnace, ate some food, and began exploring the world once again. After a bit of running around, I came across this abandoned nether portal, which actually had a chest with some pretty good stuff in, such as these Frostwalker boots. I then made a boat to get across this river, but then realized I had the boots, so then just ran across it. When I got across the other side of this little river lake, I realized it was actually a desert, and straight away found this desert temple. I then went into the temple, explored the chests, and got some pretty good loot, some stuff that will be useful for in the future. I then of course grabbed the TNT, as I knew it would be useful to me when trying to get netherite in the future, as it's just the easiest way to get netherite. I then once again put these Frostwalker boots to use, went across this massive sea, and then saw another desert temple in the distance. I went and looted the chest. It had some pretty good stuff in, including some enchanted books, some gold, and some emeralds. It was then starting to become nighttime, so once again I plopped a bed down and went to sleep. Day 2 soon came around. I began the day by exploring a bit more of this desert and actually saw 2 temples next to each other and the village. Once I got to the village, I made myself an iron hoe and then got a bunch of these hay bales to obviously be made into wheat and bread in the future. I also looted the blacksmith, which gave me some pretty cool loot, and then finished off getting the hay. I then went to the closest temple, looted it, and got some good-ish loot, nothing too insane. I then made my way to the other temple and looted that one as well, and of course I took the TNT, because you know you've got to. Then found all these drowns, but had to take off my Frostwalker boots because the ice was just getting in the way. I battled these drowns all the way to the last one, which actually had a trident. I killed him, but unfortunately didn't get the trident. That would have been really helpful. I then looted the chest and actually found a buried treasure map. I thought that was quite cool, and I would then go on to explore it soon. I realized I was starting to run out of inventory space, so I made my way back to the village, watched the 9 golem fight some mobs, and went to bed. I began day number 3 right by making myself some lovely breakfast with the wheat that I got from the hay. After this, I decided to take the treasure map and begin trying to find the treasure. After this, I found the little island that it was on and started digging. It wasn't long before my stone shovel broke, so I decided to make myself a diamond one with the diamond I found in a temple earlier. After digging for a little bit, I managed to find this chest with lots of goodies in that would be good for the future. I had it all. I would be able to use the diamonds for a sword. I'd be able to use iron for the armor. You know, life was great. I quickly grabbed all these goodies, took them back to that sand village and put them in a chest just to keep them all safe and to be sure I didn't lose any of it. I finished off this day by grabbing the bookshelves from a nearby house, just so when I got my enchanted table in the future, I'd be able to have enough books to surround it and get it to level 30. My whole of day 4 was really just spent exploring this new acacia village I found nearby. I got some stuff from chests, a lot of hay, and even found myself a horse and put a saddle on it. I put this horse in a stable and then just watched the moon settle before I was to go to sleep. After seeing this nice little acacia village, I decided I actually wanted to have my house here, so I just spent the whole of day 5 getting woods to be able to build, obviously, my own house. I didn't really need crazy amounts of wood, so it didn't take too long to get. I just needed a few stacks of logs. Remember I said I wanted to make a house? Well, that is literally what I spent my whole of day 6 and day 7 doing. By day 8, it was looking good. I felt like things were starting to come together. We had our chest full of loot. You know, I had my nice little start house. Things were looking good. I honestly spent most of the day just getting all the crops from around the village. This would obviously give me a bunch of seeds to make my own little farm, but also make the village just look a lot nicer. After getting every single crop from the village, I decided to go start my own little mine. That was until I started mining coal and my pickaxe broke. It was only a stone one, so I decided to go back to my house, get myself a little upgrade and make 2 iron pickaxes. I then used these to carry on digging in my mine for the rest of the day. After sleeping in my plain white bed in day number 9, I decided to run across the desert and go back to that sand village and grab myself a couple of beds. I got 2 dark green beds. I just wanted something different rather than just one white bed. I then returned home, placed the beds down and went round getting sugarcane. While getting sugarcane, I actually came across this desert and all I was able to get from it was a few crops and a fight with a zombie villager. I then ran all the way back to my house and started planting all the sugarcane that I found throughout that day. Day 10, now moving into double digits. It was quite a boring day. All I did was get a few crops and then destroy a bunch of trees. I didn't really need the wood straight away. I just knew that I didn't really have any left in my inventory, so I wanted to go grab some. The next day, I went and completely destroyed one of the villagers' houses near mine, and that was because I needed to make room for when I was going to build a farm here. So as soon as I broke the house, I went, made myself a chest, put all the rubbish in it to make room in my inventory, and then made a bunch of fences. I then spent the rest of the day just flattening out the ground, ready for a farm, but saw a creeper, so I decided to just go to bed. Day 12 was lovely, as I was greeted when I woke up by 2 different mobs that wanted to kill me and end this whole video. Once I got past those, I started placing the fences I made on day 11. That would then make up my wheat farm. After placing these fences, I had to destroy some wood that was in the floor that used to be a path, and covered that up, made myself some lanterns and put those on the fences, which I thought lit up the area but also looked quite cool. I then spent the rest of the day placing wheat seeds, but that wasn't too long as it quickly got dark, so I ended off my day by making myself a couple of iron hoes to carry on the next day. Day 14, I went and broke the sugarcane I got earlier and then went back down to my mine and continued digging. I didn't really find much, but I did get myself in quite a few dangerous situations. I managed to get things like gold and coal, and you may be wondering why I'm blocking up the hole right there, and that is just because mobs can spawn in those little parts. I've had worlds of the past where I've been mining, left those little bits open where I've mined some more, and then creepers just spawned there and blown up. So that's why I was doing that. I carried on mining, got things like lapis, but then my pickaxe decided to just break, so I had to go all the way back to the start of mine and run back up to the surface. While I was up there, I smelted my gold and also chucked a bunch of stuff in chests. Not the most eventful day, but at least I got to do a bit of mining. It was putting my stuff in these chests I actually realized how full they are and how badly I needed to get myself some new chests. So on day 15, I flattened out this area and made myself a nice little chest area with some walls and a floor. After I had made the area and built these walls, I took some chests over and then just spent a bunch of time transferring all my stuff from my house into these different chests. I had one for like wood kind of stuff, one for food, expensive stuff, blocks, etc. I then made myself a stone pickaxe because of course mine broke, and then went and got myself some iron. I then used this iron to make myself an iron pickaxe because a stone one just wouldn't cut it. I waited for this iron to smelt, made myself an iron pickaxe, and then also grabbed some torches and went back into the mine. As I was mining, a bunch of zombies came from one cave and I had no idea why, but then I realized it was this zombie spawner. I didn't really want a zombie spawner farm, so I decided to destroy it and just take the loot. There was some pretty good loot, but you know, not insane stuff, not as good as what was in the temple. I carried on through my strip mine on the whole of day 16 and found diamonds very quickly. I then progressed through the strip mine even more and just found things like coal. When digging one piece of coal, I actually found some diamonds straight under it, so that was a very good win. After carry on for about 5 minutes, I found myself some gold, which would be great for golden apples because I definitely would need more of those. Just after getting this gold, my pickaxe actually broke, so I had to rush back up. I once again made myself a bunch more torches and just decided to light up the area. This would allow me to stay up and not sleep on certain nights because mobs wouldn't able to just be able to sneak up on me. So that's why after mining, I decided to literally light up the whole area around me. Mobs could still spawn, but there would be a lot less common. Day 17 and 18 were kind of weird days. I just went round and got some jobs done. I started off the day by smelting some iron and managed to get myself full iron armor. This iron was from like the villages, buried treasure, but also a bit of mining, I guess, as well. As I said, I made myself iron armor, and then I went and took all of my hay that I had at the time and turned it all into wheat. I then had a lot of wheat seeds left over from the other day, so I made a chest outside my wheat farm and placed them all in there. There was also a creeper blast earlier, so I decided to just cover up that hole and make it look a lot nicer. Just make the area look better. By this time, a lot of the crops were grown, so it was time for me to, for the first time, destroy my own wheat farm and then, of course, replant it. So that's what I did. I destroyed the whole of the wheat farm, then replanted all of the seeds. This did take a while, but of course it is worth it because it's basically infinite food. And once I got villagers, I'm able to sell all of this wheat straight to them. After doing this on my way home, I had to deal with a zombie villager and a baby zombie, but it was fine because they couldn't actually get past the fence. After sleeping, I went and did a bit more wider exploring. There was another part of the desert on the other side of the river that I hadn't actually explored yet, so I went to go and explore it. After running for a little bit, I found this kind of half underground temple. I went in there, saw a creeper, and just held my shield up to stop it blowing me up. Once I got in there, I of course took the TNT and looted the chest, which had an enchanted book, a diamond, and yes, some pretty good stuff. Once I left the temple, I actually noticed that there was a village literally right next to it, so I also went and looted this village too. I then did a lot more exploring of just the outer area, so much so that I literally had to make myself a boat. I did a bunch of swimming around, but then I didn't actually find anything, so I decided to kill some sheep, make myself a bed, and just make it daytime, because I was a bit worried that I was going to die to maybe a creeper or something along those lines. Now on day 20, I woke up fresh and continued my exploration. This was quite eventful as I found this village that had a lot of things that I could loot, especially hay and chests. I then broke this sand and it looked so satisfying when I broke it. I then carried on and actually found another acacia village similar to the one I had. After looting this acacia village, I found a nearby temple, so finished off my day by looting that as well. I then just spent the most of day 22 just running around a bit and trying to find things. The best things I really found were this temple with just some iron nuggets in, but then I actually found another village, except this one was an oak village, not like the other sand villages I found. Of course, once again, I took all the hay from the village and also looted the chest as well. I then continued on my journey to try and get home, but of course it became nighttime halfway through, so I had to just sleep randomly in the desert. The next morning, I woke up bright and early and continued my journey on my way home. I didn't actually realize how far I ran out. I then found a tiny little oak village that didn't really have anything, hopped in a boat, began to swim, and eventually made my way back home. I then separated all the things I found into different chests because they were really starting to clog up my inventory. So much so that I couldn't even loot one of the villages I found. There was so much, especially the hay. I had like stacks of hay. Now that I was back from my adventure back home, it was time to put all that wood I got earlier to good use. Now that I was ready, I decided to start building myself a little villager farmhouse kind of thing. It was a place that would only hold up to a few villagers, but it was enough for me at the moment. This did take quite a long time, but this obviously included getting a bit more wood because I didn't actually have enough, and then obviously turning cobble into stairs and stuff like that. I also made sure to light it up as much as possible because I did not want mobs to spawn and kill the villagers. But by the end of day 23, the villager house was done. Of course, none of the outside was done, but the inside still needed doing. So the next day, I went round my acacia village that I lived in and just stole a bunch of the beds. The villagers probably weren't happy about this, but at least they were going to good use. I put the beds in and then made some lecterns as well. I then also made 2 compost bins and put those in 2 of them, so I would be able to get a lot of emeralds and I would have at least 1 villager to trade for books with. I then managed to lead 1 villager in with seeds and 2 in with boats. I then later on realized that the one I led in with seeds wouldn't actually be able to do any trades, but at least the other 2 that I bought in a boat would be able to. Like the other day, day 25 was literally just for me to do a few jobs that would maybe make the world a bit better. I made myself a diamond sword. I also made some torches and made the mine look a bit neater. I broke the blocks above me that stopped me from going down as fast, and I also put stairs on the floor so it'd be way easier to get up and down. Next to my house in the river, I also made these kind of like stepping stone kind of things. They weren't like amazingly like architectural designs. They're just some pieces of wood in the river that I could use to jump across to get to the other side. By day 26, I had another villager to trade with, and I honestly just spent most of the day farming wheat, selling it to the villagers, and just kept repeating that. This of course led me to have a bunch of emeralds, but I then just spent, once again, day 27 just farming wheat constantly. I started off day 28 selling a bunch of this wheat to villagers, but then began to do some mining. After doing mining and my pickaxe broke, it then occurred to me that I didn't actually have a bow yet. So what I decided to do was go kill a bunch of skeletons for, of course, arrows and spiders for string. I knew that if I wanted to get far in this world, I would need a bow, because I definitely wouldn't be wanting to fight things like blazes and especially the ender dragon up close all the time. So that's what I decided to do. I decided to make myself a brand new bow. Day 29, I managed to get infinity on one of the villagers to, of course, put on my bow. This way, I wouldn't need loads of arrows. I would only need one. I quickly went home, got some emeralds, and then bought the book off the villager. I, of course, then went back home and put infinity on the bow with an anvil that I made earlier on. I then grabbed a bunch of my wheat and traded a bunch of it with the villagers. I then went off exploring to a nearby oak forest. The nearest one was actually on an island, though. I went around destroying trees for the rest of the day because I really wanted to get some apples, and I didn't know if you'd be able to get them at acacia forests. After having a good night's sleep, I spent the whole of day 30 and most of day 31 destroying oak trees. The reason I was destroying these trees, as I said, wasn't to get the wood, although I would get wood from it. The main reason was to get apples. I wanted these apples so that I could then make a bunch of golden apples, because I didn't really have many apples before that. I had some, but not loads to the point where they would last me until the ender dragon fight. I then, at the end of day 31, made my way home as I had enough apples and my inventory was starting to become very full. I, of course, then emptied out my inventory once I was home into my chest and then actually decided to make myself a diamond pickaxe. Once I had my pickaxe, I took my sweeping edge book and my fortune book that I both got from temples earlier in the game and put them on, of course, my sword and my pickaxe. I also had a fire aspect 1 book, so I decided to put that on the sword as well. I then took out the fences from the chest that I had earlier and began making myself a brand new cow farm. I, of course, went round putting the fences around, and I also put some wood in front just to add a bit of color. I don't know. I then put torches around it just to make sure it was all lit up, and then made some fence gates just to finish it off. It was then getting dark, so I just spent the rest of the day mining my sugarcane, which is something I did quite a lot throughout this whole world due to there just being lots of it and it growing quite fast, a lot faster than wheat. Day 33, a third of the way in now. I just spent the whole day herding cows to my new farm. I also, at the end of the day, made myself a couple of golden apples because I could afford it. Day 34 was spent trying out my new pickaxe. Of course, I had fortune, so I went mining. I did find things like gold and iron, but I actually found quite a lot of diamonds, as you can tell on screen. I think by the time I actually went out the strip mine, of course, due to me having fortune, I actually had around 30-ish diamonds. Most of day 5 was pretty much just spent getting myself a bunch of obsidian. Now moving on to day 36, I actually got a lot done. We started off by making myself full diamond armor, which is pretty cool. Once I had done that, I took that aqua affinity book I got earlier and put it on my helmet. I then saw some random villager just running around, so I decided to capture him and put him in my villager thing. I then broke the lectern so many times and eventually I got this trade, which is the feather falling trade. I bought one of the books and then put it on my boots. I then found another villager, so I went and put him in a boat and then put him in there as well. I was starting to run out of emeralds, so I went to my wheat farm and broke all the wheat to, of course, trade it with the villagers for more emeralds. I began the next day by replenishing all the wheat that I broke on day 36. Once I had done this, I got a lectern from one of my chests, took it to the villager place and placed it down for the new villager. I then did this over and over again until he got the mending book. I went back home, got all of my wheat, traded it with the villagers for emeralds, and then managed to get myself 3 mending books. I then went and put the mending books on my sword, pickaxe, and my boots. My pickaxe was starting to break, but of course I had mending, so I just spent the next day going around and breaking things like coal and redstone to try and fix it. Day 39, getting closer to halfway, I started the day off by just taking all the ores and things that I got from all that mining and just turn them into blocks so they wouldn't take up as much room. I then smelted some gold, bred some cows, chopped down some sugarcane, and then went and killed a bunch of animals because I was starting to run out of food. I then finished the day off by putting some lovely golden horse armor on my horse. The beginning of day 40 was basically just a little farming morning. That's all I really did for that morning. I then took my horse with its new golden armor and we went off on an adventure to go exploring. Instantly, we found this abandoned nether portal, which we got a gold block from, but it didn't have a chest, which is unfortunate. Also, if you want to name this horse, make sure to drop some comments for the horse's name down below. We then found ourselves in a desert where we instantly found a sand village, so I decided to grab some hay from there, loot it, and then just sleep. Continuing this little adventure on day 41, we left the village and found this sand temple. I went into the temple, of course, looted it, and then made my way back out. After a bit more running, we found this new sand village, so I decided to loot it. We then ran hundreds of blocks and found ourselves at the top of this snowy mountain. I then put my bed down and just decided to sleep right here. Day 42, we looted a village, explored, and found another village. After a good night's rest, I went and looted this village, and by the end of day 43, I was back home. Once I was back home, I took some materials I already had and made myself a new enchanting table. I then made a bunch of bookshelves and made it to level 30. I then used the rest of the obsidian I had, made a nether portal, and then just tunneled through the nether for a bit. I continued this kind of tunneling on day 45 until I ran out of torches. Of course, the nether is quite lit up, but I didn't really feel safe without them, so I went back to the overworld and got some more. Day 46 wasn't too interesting. I just spent, once again, the whole day killing a bunch of animals for, of course, food. I carried on doing the same thing on day 47, of course with my pickaxe up, so I could fix it up a bit. Also, while out killing animals, I found this invisible spider. Still trying to level up my pickaxe and get myself some more ores, I spent the whole of day 48 mining. Day 49, one day away from halfway, it was quite eventful. We traded with some villagers, made some golden apples, broke some wheat, replenished some wheat, did more trading, got a couple of mending books. I then took these mending books and put them on some armor. I then finished off this wonderful day by going back to the nether and continuing a bit of mining. Day 50, finally halfway through the world. I grabbed all my TNT, went to the nether, got to level 15, and, well, I think you know what happened next. I placed the TNT and ran for my life. I ran back down to see the explosion, and it was insane. I managed to get myself 2 pieces of netherite, and then, of course, it was time for round 2. I placed the TNT, watched the explosion, but then as I searched around with this second explosion, I didn't really find any netherite. But this is fine because I had another explosion up my sleeve. I placed the TNT, exploded it, and found myself a couple of pieces of netherite. I then returned back home with 8 ancient debris. I put them in the furnace and managed to make myself 2 netherite ingots. I then made a smithing table and then made my sword and pickaxe both into netherite ones. I also managed to get flame from a villager, so I got a flame book, put it on my bow, and then tested it out on these poor animals. The next day, I went mining for some more ores, including diamonds, and made myself 5 more golden apples to add to my collection. On day 54, I had a few pieces of gold left, so I decided to try trading for the first time on this world. I put on a chest plate and headed to the nether. Of course, it wasn't lots of gold, so I didn't really expect anything great, but I just decided to trade with them anyway. I gave them all the gold, but unfortunately, I didn't really get anything back. I think the best thing I got was just some iron boots and maybe a potion. I then returned home from the nether and did some farming. I felt in the mining mood, so when I returned home, day 55 to 58, I just spent mining, and I got very lucky. I got a lot of redstone, I got some emeralds, and I got a lot of diamonds. Oh yeah, I also did the same thing on day 59. I just couldn't get enough. I took day 60 to take the gold to the nether and trade with piglins once again, but didn't really get much. Day 61, I made myself a few more bows and then combined them all together to make myself the ultimate bow. The next day was a nice chill day. You know, I bred some cows, I did some farming with the wheat seeds. I also made myself a few bits of TNT just in case we needed it, you know, in the future. The days that followed day 62, which were day 63 to 66, were very scary moments. I spent these 4 days exploring the nether where I had to fight ghast, fight skeletons, and even blazes. When going into this nether fortress, I also managed to find myself some diamond horse armor for my horse back in the overworld. I found the blaze spawner and began fighting the blazes to, of course, get myself a bunch of blaze rods. There was one scary moment though. There was one moment where I thought it was all gonna end. I just ate a golden apple and I was on around 3 hearts. I left the game, brought myself together, and then went in. This was the moment. This was the moment where I could have died and the whole thing would have ended. I took a deep breath and went back into the game. As I loaded in, I accidentally dropped my golden apples, but that didn't matter. I built some blocks up and carried on running. I blocked a bunch of the blazes fire charges and kept on running. I then boxed myself up to get myself to full health once again. It was after this tragic moment that I decided to just use my bow for the rest of the time being. After sitting and bowing them for ages and of course deflecting their fire charges, I left the nether with around 10 blaze rods. When I arrived back home, I gave my horse this brand new diamond armor. He seemed to like it. I then realized I had lots of gold from when I was in the nether and decided to make myself a bunch more golden apples. I then took around a stack of golden ingots to one pigling. I got some potions and things, but I did not get a single ender pearl. I got a bit bored of strip mining, so I spent the whole of day 68 exploring a cave. I then traveled back to the nether and got myself some gold. I also exploded some TNT, got some netherite, and broke some quartz to, of course, fix up my pickaxe a little bit. At this point, it occurred to me how close I actually was to be fighting the ender dragon, so I decided to do a bunch more trades with the piglin. I traded with the piglin for ages and actually managed to get around 30 ender pearls, which was more than enough. When getting these ender pearls, I was so happy. It meant that I wasn't going to have to go mining for gold again, and I wouldn't risk dying in the nether. I then got home and made myself 16 Eye of Enders. Now that I actually had enough Eye of Enders to get to the end, it was time to gear up, so I trapped these villagers and broke lecterns for the whole of day 72 and 73 until I managed to get protection 4 on one of them. I then broke some sugar cane, made it into paper, and got myself some emeralds for it, but of course this wasn't enough. After doing this a few times, I then made myself a bunch of fletching tables. I took these tables to a nearby village and then was able to get a bunch of emeralds by selling my sticks to the villagers. When I went back to my villagers, I actually noticed that the protection 4 villager was gone. It no longer had protection 4 and it had a different trade. I then had to spend the rest of day 76 and the start of day 77 destroying lecterns and replacing them to eventually get protection 3. I then bought a few of these protection 3 books, made them into protection 4 and put them on my leggings and my chest plate. The next day I did a bit more trading with the villagers to get some emeralds and then chopped down some trees to get more sticks on day 79. I traded with villagers for the whole of the next 2 days, and then by day 81, I managed to get myself full protection 4 armor. Now, of course, I was doing all this preparation, but I literally still had no idea where the end portal was, so day 82, I grabbed my Eye of Enders and began my journey. I threw one of the pearls up in the air and began to run that way. Once I got up to this mountain, I threw another pearl and still had to go the same direction, so I just kept going. I hopped in a boat and eventually made my way to the island that I was at earlier, getting apples and chopping down trees at. I then got to the end of this island, threw another pearl and continued my journey. I boated across this island, but then when I threw a pearl, it actually went behind me. I threw another one just to make sure it was actually where I am, and indeed it was. The pearl went behind me once again. I then began to dig my way down, but knew I was at the portal when I reached this mossy stone. I entered the stronghold, looted a chest, and began to try and find the portal. Little did I know, it was literally round the corner. I destroyed the silverfish mob spawner, and then decided to leave. I took the cords and made my way back home. I wasn't quite ready yet. The next day, I managed to get myself a sharpness villager. By the end of day 84, I managed to get myself 2 sharpness books to get sharpness 3, but I didn't have enough XP to put it on my sword quite yet. After a good night's sleep, I just spent day 85 doing random bits like mining, chopping wood, etc. I then spent the whole of day 86 all the way up to day 91 preparing for this end fight. I did a bunch of different things. I made buckets of water. I went and got myself pumpkins to make iron golems to defend off the enderman. I also killed a bunch of more blazes so I could get blaze rods and then make myself a bunch of different potions. Once I got back from the nether after killing all the places, I decided to do a bit more mining. I then went home, made myself a brewing stand and began making myself some potions. I managed to get myself regeneration potions and strength potions. I filled up a chest full of good loot that I would need to fight the Ender Dragon and then began fighting phantoms. After killing a few phantoms, I managed to get myself some phantom membrane to then make potions of slow falling to of course help me not die to full damage when I got to the end. Once I had these potions, I was pretty much all set. I had everything I needed in my chest, ready to go, ready to fight the Ender Dragon. Day 92, it was the day. I grabbed everything from the chest and began making my way back to where the end portal was. It was a long journey, but I finally arrived. I realized when I got there that I forgot torches, which means I wouldn't be able to grab the dragon egg. So when I got there, I mined a tree, made a furnace, and managed to make myself 4 torches. I then made my way back down to the stronghold and was greeted with the end portal. I filled it up and it was ready for me to jump in. Finally, after all these days, I was finally able to fight the Ender Dragon and complete Minecraft. Not only that, but it was my first ever time entering the end alone. I sorted out my inventory, plucked up the courage, and jumped in the portal. This was it. When I got into the end, I realized my platform was very far away, so I had to just bridge my way over to the actual end island. I splashed myself with a strength potion and began to mine my way up. This was it now. There was no turning back. I made an iron golem and then tried to make a second one, but it failed twice. I decided to just leave it. Of course, before I went to kill the ender dragon, I had to destroy the end crystals. I wanted to get the 2 in cages first because I knew they would be the hardest to get. I began to nerd pole up to one of them, but the ender dragon hit me off. I knew the ender dragon would keep doing this, so I ran to the other one. As I got up to it, I began to draw back my bow, shot it, and it was done. That was my first end crystal down. I then made my way back down and ran to the other one that I missed before. I shot a few arrows at the ender dragon, but they missed. I made my way up to the other end crystal with iron bars around it and managed to destroy it. 1 arrow was all it took. I then destroyed another end crystal with my bow, but unfortunately, when I went to go for the other ones, all my arrows were missing. I wasn't sure what was going on. I didn't know how long was left of my slow falling, so I splashed another one on me and began to make my way once again back up to the end crystal. This gave me an excellent opportunity to shoot a bunch of them as I was around the same height as them. Up here, I managed to take out 4 of the end crystals very quickly. I then took a few shots once again at the ender dragon, but they missed. I then just jumped down because I didn't want the ender dragon to hit me off quite yet. I then made my way up to another end crystal. I only bought 3 stacks of netherite with me, and that clearly wasn't enough. I had to use some of the endstone I got from being in the end to get all the way up. I shot the end crystal with a bow and then managed to get another one with my bow. There were no end crystals left. I took some shots at the ender dragon and then it began to fly up towards me. As it got fairly close, I just carried on shooting at it to try and get it as low as possible. It still had a lot of health right now. It hit me back, but of course I had slow falling, so I was completely fine. I then made my way back up to the top of this obsidian pillar fairly quickly. I lost a bit of hunger, so I just ate a golden apple. I managed to hit the ender dragon a couple of times with my bow and arrow. As it came back up to me, it was firing fireballs, so I had to try and dodge those while trying to shoot at him at the same time. While he was up here, I managed to get him to about half health, but not quite. I just carried on firing arrows as I had infinity. It was my best chance, if I had one, at killing this ender dragon. It once again came towards me and I was surrounded in dragon breath, so I decided to jump down from this pillar. I nearly flew into the ender dragon, so I had to steer away from him. As I landed, I noticed there was an enderman trying to kill me. This was fine though, because I had protection 4 armor. After a few hits, the enderman was dead. I then splashed myself with my last slow falling potion. This meant I had to kill the ender dragon within the next 4 minutes. I carried on firing arrows at him, but he slowly began to come back down to the middle. When he landed, I began to hit him with my sword. I didn't do too much damage, but I did enough to get him fairly low. I accidentally went near his wing and then got launched very high up into the sky. I thought this was it. If my slow falling potion ran out, I would have been dead. I went to land on one of the obsidian pillars, but remembered that if I got hit off, I would probably die because my slow falling potion was about to run out any minute now. I quickly made my way back down while shooting arrows at him at the same time. I got him very weak. After a few arrows missed, this was it. I managed to fire the last arrow at him and kill the ender dragon. This was it. I got the advancement, freeing the end. I had myself a golden apple and then just watched him be obliterated in the middle of the end. I watched all the XP fall and then went and collected it. It was a momentous occasion. I was so excited that I finally killed the ender dragon all by myself. I, of course, collected all this XP, hit the ender dragon egg, and managed to collect it with the torches that I grabbed before I came into the end. Once I had the dragon egg, that was it. I had nothing more to do with the end for now, so I hopped back in the portal. I was so excited. I then just sat, relaxed, and watched the credits roll through. After building this shrine for the dragon egg, I had one last job to do. I ventured out and got myself a new pet dog. I called him Jeb. I built myself and him a platform, and then we sat and watched the sunset on my last day of my Minecraft 100 Days world.